before finishing college. If anyone and everyone that is in college is in this chat, definitely don't do what I do by any means. And it does actually seem like we are rolling a $25 RP card in the chat right now as well. So use that exclamation point Toyota, or that exclamation point Santa Masi, despite the fact that he isn't playing in this game, though. Does seem like Champ Select is ready and available, Tiggy.
Yeah, perfect time for y'all to go ahead and fill that out while we go over what comps we're going to be rolling into for our final quarterfinal of the day. Nothing outrageous as far as the bans. You see Graves, Set, and Rumble taken off of the table for blue side. Graves has been a very recent resurgence in popularity when it comes to his jungle play. Set, flexibility into multiple roles, but commonly seen in the top lane. Rumble, also a lot of potential to try and harass in the mid lane. And then opposite side, MF still being a point of contention. TF also, I believe I'm trying to remember on this specific roster, but I know some players within this tournament do have a lot of games on TF, particularly as champion.
Ryan, outside of his top five, or TF isn't in his top five, but is still, in his top seven kind of most played champions. It's also interesting to see the Misfortune ban, considering that she did have a little nerf to herself, that movement speed being not as capable as what it currently was, which gives an immediate opportunity for Ricky to secure himself that Varus and already find the CSUDH squad in a very solid position, as it is a Vayne pickup as well on the opposite side for USC.
Why do I always feel like when we cover Collegiate, there's always at least one Vayne, right?
I feel like it's just part of the process. Young players, by and large, just want to showcase how great they are. But I think it's also the fact that Luwusian, which is a name that I'm really going to enjoy saying this game, his top played champion actually is Vayne. So despite the fact that showboating might be a thing, he certainly has the experience on that champ himself.
Though I'm happy that Lucian is one of the ones that is still top played. I would have been really disappointed if he wasn't in there somewhere when you have a name like that. But yeah, Vayne being the #1 pick there. And when you're going into a best of one, you often see players gravitating much more towards their comfort picks, which is usually a sentiment you see much more in Collegiate anyway. And facing off against Varus, though, what do you make of that matchup, especially considering that Vayne does have mobility, but a short range?
I think it really just depends on what sort of protection Vayne is going to have onto that bottom side. We still find ourselves early in this draft, and I think that is going to dictate it. Varus, of course, will have a lot of opportunity to demolish, considering the current build that he has. But, you also are going to see a chance from Vayne with that invisibility, and Luwusian will have a chance, as it does look like he will have a lot of damage to help him out with a Fiddlesticks and now a Vel'Koz to help him out.
Fiddlesticks has looked mighty scary since his changes recently. Did you see the cinematic video they had, the initial
glorious.
One they released?
Glorious.
I really want to see a full actual horror movie with that as the starting scene, because Fiddlesticks is mad scary. But question is he going to be scary enough here? Insanity, pretty strong player, but he is actually flexing in this case.
He will. And now you take a look, of course, at CUDH. They've got a Kha'Zix and an Orianna, as now we do begin the ban phase for phase #2. Aatrox taken away, so making sure that we don't have an Alorum-style repeat in that top side, considering just the power and strength that Aatrox brings to the earlier stages of the game. Of course, Thresh taken off the table as well. So already some isolation bans away for both of these players.
And somewhere like the top lane, where it's a bit more limited to the pool that you consistently see right now, a ban can be impactful in that way. Ornn was the final one banned away by USC. So this forces both of these teams to play something not necessarily unconventional, as there are still top lane picks, but maybe what you wouldn't expect them to go for if they are going for the comfort strategies.
Ornn taken off as well as the Pantheon. So we aren't going to see the matchup from the last game into the top side, and we're going to have to see a little bit of variety for both of these teams. Of course, there is a flex onto red side, so chances are aplenty. A Nautilus would be a large pickup for Fonzie and would pair quite well with that Vayne, especially considering that they could lock down that enemy Varus and make sure that he couldn't continue to be that oppressive character against Luwusian in the bot side.
The question is, what support will be going for CSUDH? Hooked and taken out of the equation there in the bot lane, because that can be a dangerous spot to be. But if you can get Varus to a carry place later on in the game, especially with his ult lockdown of single targets, then you're in a really good place.
It is final pickup, of course, here for Gate, locking in that final player. Galio gets picked up as well, so still things left to be seen. And Pike actually gets locked in and finished. So CSUDH finalizing their roster here in their quarterfinal match. It is a best of one, so they're going to have to make sure to stand up huge right off the rip if they have a chance to making it to the semifinals and finding a Lorem and the rest of that UCI team.
It's actually pretty funny because seeing Ivern hovered, it was Patrick Avila who played in one of the earlier games, and his interview is saying, "I just want them to see my Ivern." So I just looked real quick to see, oh, was it one of these players? But no, sadly not the case. But these are the complete compositions that are coming into fruition. And curious enough, Aurelia is the last lock-in, and she has come up through the rankings as far as whether it be solo queue or otherwise in her power potential.
It is indeed. It is now, from what we see on the opposite side, of course, Asian Shenanigans is the support player. Despite the fact that he has a lot of AD carry games, he is going to be playing that support. That Fonzie pick is actually going to be the top laner for USC. So a little bit of swap on the order than what you're used to seeing in the normal LCS style. But Fonzie, of course, has a lot of experience on that Aurelia, finding in the top 5 of his playtime, and could be a really good chance to just showcase, what we can see from this USC squad and what they're capable of potentially creating here in their quarterfinals match.
Yeah, so we know the drafts of both of these teams. We know kind of what they're going for. As far as the compositions in general, what are your thoughts on how they match up?
I have a huge piece of interest to see how the item prioritization is going to be for CSUDH, considering the large amount of AP damage. Nautilus, Fiddlesticks, Vel'Koz, and the mixed damage, of course, from Aurelia is going to be a huge boon of difficulty for them. But that is the exact reason I believe that they decided to go with that Galio on the top lane for Bahena. I think that, the opportunity that he can create if he's able to prioritize defensive items could stifle that. But yet again, we find a huge amount of team fight potential with that Orianna and Varus combo for CSUDH. So it's going to be a spicy one, and it's going to be a value of who lands their crowd control first.
Yeah, Orianna in the mid lane, obviously a continuous staple throughout seasons to seasons, but also speaking to the fact that having a control mid laner right now offers a lot of potential for the rest of the team. And if you're looking back at the top lane, as you're saying with Aurelia and Galio, it's kind of that situation, right? A lot of times going into it, you know what your expectations are. If you're Galio, if you don't win lane, that's okay. But if you can keep Aurelia from getting completely out of control, then you're going to do your service for your team.
You will, as we are just getting ourselves closer and talking about a lot about both of these teams. We've got, California State University, Dominguez Hills. They have been around for a little bit, the fall of 2017. So they are still find themselves there. But USC, it does seem like 2009 was where they started. So despite the fact of 2009 being a whole heck of a long time ago, the esports aspect of the club certainly holds itself some sort of value in the pedigree that they can potentially bring here to the table.
And don't forget, everybody that's watching, while only 5 winners can walk away on Summoner's Rift, we have many winners in the chat that can walk away as well. So make sure that you go and enter that because, there's Switch lights, there's games, there's plenty of you to choose from. And of course, as we mentioned before, for our tournament winners, first place getting that 3K to their school along with that coaching session, second place getting 1.5K to their school, and third place getting 500. That will be dedicated to those esports programs.
It is, and any way that you can have money going towards the schools is going to be a benefit. But at the same time, we've mentioned it a little bit. I know that it was something that they talked about a piece in the last couple matches before we were able to hop onto the mic. But with the current situation of the global pandemic, any chance to kind of rally together a bunch of different universities and have this kind of tournament and really kind of showcase who's the best in SoCal, it just showcases the ability for gamers to come together amidst the global situation that we are facing and really just bond around the love for video games.
And as Avali and Yvonne mentioned earlier, things like Switches are hard to come by right now. Switch lights too. I have seen people tweet out like Ash Nico and other people that are like, I can't get my hands on a Switch. So this might be your only opportunity if you're
So
looking for one.
StockX.com, which is usually a website where you go for, streetwear and sneakers and things like that. They actually have Nintendo Switches on StockX now because people have, mass bought them and resold just because of the literal desire for something like that worldwide.
Oh, well, and that's all the more reason to thank both Immortals and Toyota SoCal for making this opportunity for y'all to get without having to go anywhere else. You don't even have to leave chat. You can hang out here all day and walk away a winner. Lucky for you all, we should be getting into the game soon enough, looking at the rest of my screen. So, as a reminder, this is a quarterfinal, best of one. It is the last one that we have to determine who will be facing off against UCI and Hakuho in their semifinal.
Now, I do have to ask you, La Tigress. I know that fitness is a huge piece of your everything. But is there anything that any new hobbies that you've been able to create since quarantining with your fiance?
Any new hobbies? I've done a lot of cooking. Well, I've always done a lot of cooking, but I've done more like cooking on stream, I feel like, because it's like more time to hang out, more workouts. I have made my fiance, well, no, he did so willingly join in some of the fitness grind. So, yeah, he joined. Don't worry, everybody, if we're not forcing anyone into anything in this household. What about you? I knew
Uh,
you've been teaching, right?
I bought a DJ controller and have been learning to be a hot and spicy DJ. I play on my back porch and actually played for this like 10-year-old kid and his dad last weekend. They like ate their dinner on the back porch of their or on the back patio of their apartment, and I was forced to play EDM remixes of Baby Shark and other children's songs. It was quite the experience. I'll let you know now.
That's amazing. You know what? I bet you that you made that kid's day. So props to you for bringing joy to your building as we bring joy to everyone here watching some League of Legends.
His dad definitely gave me a hot thumbs up as they went back out inside. And, that's all the validation I need. But validation is going to have to happen in the form of a win for both of these teams as CSUDH as well as USC finds themselves into their best of one match for the quarterfinals. It is a stare down the line of scrimmage right off the bat. And yet again, it's going to be a constant, look to see what is Insanity going to be able to do with that Fiddlesticks in the jungle versus his, teammate of the Immortals squad with Gate in that bot lane support.
That is one very important thing to consider, how not just the fact that these are pro players, but having someone else come into the team and how that will affect the balance of each lane or jungle. Pro players tend to play jungle and things like that very differently just because of the experience level. And that's the learnings that a lot of these students are looking forward to as we're going to a more traditional start here as well.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a slower position. And of course, you do have Night Ice on that Kha'Zix as well. And I'm really looking to see how he's, going to be able to successfully get himself farmed up in the earlier stages. Yes, of course, you have that extra isolation damage available. But considering the power that Fiddlesticks kind of has. You don't really expect Fiddlesticks in a lot of these situations to have as much power as he necessarily does. But if you're able to get double buffs onto him, he actually has a lot of damage in the early game, especially once he's able to, secure those abilities and fear you away.
And that's something that you're going to have to really look out for ganking potential. But nonetheless, also ever since XP changes that happened before, oh wait, actually we're getting some action right now, just in the bot lane, already using the Ignite to attempt to get the kill on the enemy Vayne and punish her, but there's not going to be any kill surfacing just yet.
A lot of pressure is going to be on Fonzie this game to make sure that he can protect Luwusian's Vayne enough to be able to get to the spikes that she needs. Vayne is not a strong laner by any means, and especially considering the power that they're going against with Just Ricky and that Varus, especially since he decided to go Corrupting Potion early, puts them in a very back foot. So it's going to be a huge piece for Insanity to make sure to help alleviate a little bit of that pressure, though it does look like that both of the junglers are moving on to the top side, especially with Bahena moving up. It could be an opportunity for Insanity to push himself to the top, potentially affect something there with Fonzie.
Yeah, just based on his pathing, that may be the first place that we see him completely surface in this. But this does give the chance for, in the bot lane in particular, due to the range of Varus and the pressure that Pi can offer, they have the enemies completely pushed up under their tower. Same thing's happening over in the top lane.
Still lots of action and already a lot of damage that you can see from CSUDH. They want to make sure to get as much damage as possible onto this bot tower early to see if they can really try to progress the game. They've already done about 20% damage, so already starting themselves off, as it does look like we see Night Ice lurking around onto this middle side. He's going to take down the Scuttle Crab, potentially see if he can acquire at least something against Insanity, because that power jungling style that he's had has created something, though it does look like they find themselves meeting each other in the jungle.
Oh, while they do have the chance to back off with Kha'Zix finding himself to safety, I also want to point out there was a little trolling in the all chat saying Insanity, Fiddlesticks, XDDDDD, Gate Pike, LOL, can't believe you would do this to your team. I just love the fact that everyone's kind of having fun in general with where they're taking these picks, but not in the sense of not taking it seriously. You can tell they're still offering a lot to their team.
Oh, of course. I mean, anytime that you have a chance to kind of have some like friendly rivalry between teammates, considering that you're always on the same side of the rift as them, certainly showcases the fun that they're able to have, as it does look like Fonzie, you know, has a little bit of an engage now, but a little bit of a rotation down by Ryan, as he's going to have to stop Insanity from something. And oh no, Latigris!
Oh no, Fonzie did end up cleaning that onto Bahena. And in the meantime, I thought Insanity was going to get caught out in the bot side river, because there were pings coming out from blue to try and collapse upon him with the jungler and the mid laner. Unfortunately for them, he was able to escape. And in that time, it was happening in the top lane. Still harassment here in the bottom as well, with both Vayne and Nautilus chunked down to below 20% HP because of the harass available to the bot lane for blue.
And so that's going to be a great job to have an advantage for Fonzie. And again, we said he was one that we're going to have to look out for a little bit, as now lots of damage being done up on to Insanity by Night Ice, as he's going to simply try to assert some dominance onto the enemy jungle and say, you know what, you're not the only one that's going to be in this jungle. I'm going to be a super scary man myself. Bugs are just as scary as scarecrows. I'll let you know now.
Bugs can be bullies, and in that case, bullying him out of his own jungle. Not completely, just pretty much delaying any rotation that he has and just receiving that information. It's always great if you know where the enemy jungler is going to be, so you can either set up your ganks or a counter gank if needed. This is also going to be a Drake. Oh, but the Nautilus, he's low. He actually flashes and pushes out Night Ice to the back wall, and he dies even after the hop. But the rest of the team for CSUDH have started to rotate into this. There's the ultimate coming out of Vel'Koz. One final tap from the Orianna puts this Drake into the pocket of CSUDH. So ultimately, an objective victory for them despite the blood loss.
Unfortunately, the bug gets crushed by the anchor, and it's something you would expect to see, but unfortunately, Night Ice not being as self-aware of his HP as possible, which will mean a rough situation for them. Thankfully, CSUDH is able to at least secure themselves a Drake, so they will stabilize a little bit into that economy, but at the same time, getting that extra kill onto the Nautilus, his second now for the day, is going to be a really good effort for them to tank himself up and really try to protect that Vayne in the bot side.
It's so funny because the placement's different between top and support on red side, and you see a 2-0 Nautilus. It could be really easy to just think, oh yeah, so it is Nautilus top up there, getting the solo kills, having some nice harass, but nope, he is over in the bot side and has done a great job of also keeping Lerusian alive in that case. We've seen both of them chunk down fairly low, but he's always there to throw out hooks, if anything, not to get the hook, but just to force Ricky and Gabe backwards.
So now, nice little opportunities for both of these teams to reset themselves. You've got both blue buffs that are spawning within a few seconds of each other. So, of course, nothing too out of the contrary. You can see the pings coming out. It was a recognition by CSUDH that there is that buff up immediately. So it could be a chance for a counter jank, but instead, not going to be too much, as there is a lot of defensive warding available for USC. So they're doing a good job defending Insanity, and it looks like to be the engage. I think we have a little bit of a mic thing with Gabby right now, but you know,
oh, no, you didn't hear any of that.
No,
oh,
it's okay.
Sad day, sad day.
It's fine. It's all right. We had to have the dramatic pause to showcase the power that USA really brought onto this. That's exactly what I know.
I was super into that too. I'm so sad.
You know what happened? We're all stuck in quarantine. We're all having to be in a moment where, it happened. It's okay.
Sometimes I'll wiggle my cord and then it mutes itself, and that was a sad day. But you know what? I got that moment, so I know that's what y'all care about in the chat. That I had a good time doing that. Nothing else, right? So
as long as it felt good for you, then I think that everybody's gonna be okay.
Yeah, you know what? I can give y'all full confidence that felt good. Now all that I ask is for the teams to create some more exciting moments like that, because that was super exciting to see, especially considering we don't always get to see Insanity in this capacity, in a role like this, on this pick. So I'm getting the tingly feeling in my fingers watching this match.
It is, and only about a 200 gold difference. So showcasing that just despite that's the case, and we can relive this fight, Gabby. I know that there was a lot of passion that you really had for this one.
Yeah, I won't pretend and try and recreate all of the amazing adrenaline in my head there, but living this back, you can tell Nautilus was thinking, okay, I'm going to be fine as long as I wait this out until my jungler comes into this. But that was knowledge that was not known by Ricky or Gate in that situation. So they stayed committed and were punished for it.
And so now, of course, with that slight advantage, Gate tries to see if he can throw something onto Luwusian. But more importantly, despite the fact that there is a control ward, it could be a chance for Night Ice to go in.
Kha'Zix so fast in the way that he moves in. Vayne taken away, and Pyke is going to get this slap to keep the lockdown going for this double kill. There is a Fiddlesticks ready to make another play. Pops the ultimate, starts to get the burn down onto Night Ice, but Night Ice gets out of range. Unfortunately, that is not the case for his teammates. So Gate is going to go down, and the fight continues slightly, as Just Ricky should be able to escape this cleanly.
Ooh, it kind of clenches his butt cheeks and runs away because there's a very terrifying Fiddlesticks that is running towards you. 3-0-0 for Insanity right now, and that's going to be a huge piece of effort of a bonus for USC once he's able to surprise attack, rather, with his ultimate, as now USC tries to see if they can get a piece of stabilization. But thankfully, because of those extra kills that have gone into the pockets of CSUDH, they've got themselves a pretty solid lead, about 1.4 thousand gold.
Gold is one thing, but objectives are another, and the Drake is going to be coming up in about 10 seconds, for which the warding is favoring USC currently. But it is enough time for CSUDH to try and make some rotations to clear these out. A lot of them are controls that they should find visible. One blue directly into the pit, so they'll know if a play does try to get started over here by red side.
So now, Gate, though, trying to throw some pressure onto that Vel'Koz, and doing a really good job. Now that he's able to actually have those extra resources, the mobility boost is great, but
Oh no! Punished. Varus, not a lot of escapability for him if you see three bodies coming towards you. With the ADC taken out, CD actually wanting to make a play over here in the mid lane, moving through with their jungler coming up for a bit of support, but it was unneeded as the elimination onto the enemy mid laner was achieved.
So now with the Mountain Drake available, this could be an opportunity for both of these teams to acquire the vision. You've got about a third of the health, I guess, or time rather, left on that Scuttlecrab vision. So it's a chance for at least USC to kind of stop CSUDH from really trying to go for this Mountain Drake. And they're be able to do a good job of that, denying it where they can. And, you really have to take advantage of the vision that they've been able to acquire. You can see a huge amount of vision onto that bot side red. And great effort for them, and even more so to stabilize it down. And a very different game here in this last quarterfinal match than what we saw in that last quarterfinal match between UCI and Pepperdine.
Which is very interesting and brings up an important point of teamwork aspects, because if you look at the raw levels of the players for both, when we looked at the last quarterfinal that we just witnessed, a lot of them are ranked into the higher diamonds, plats, and seemed a bit even matched in that way, and just the competitive experience despite the differential in the time of the organizations being around. Whereas if I recall, in this quarterfinal matchup, there's a tad more of a disparity between some of the players in their individual matchups, but they're getting great support from the rest of the team, as a slight pick actually happening over here in the jungle. Some trouble found for Insanity, but he does have some support from the rest of his team. Unfortunately, this will be a collapse from everybody else as well. Aurelia is here to play, but not for long, as Ryan gets a slap down on him. Galio is also available, but is just going to be here for the support to try and take out this mid laner once more. Oh! Just out of range. So unfortunately for the side of CSUDH, that is a surviving mid laner.
Tentacles barely allowing Zephyrum to respond right there. And I really like the reactive maneuvering of CSUDH there. It was an even better ultimate by Ryan's Orianna, making sure that it could deny any of that opportunity. And Insanity, his first down of the game, and Night Ice doing a great job. But more importantly, USC not only able to get themselves a kill in the mid lane, they've also now, the Tigers, got themselves the first tower.
And before time fell, or they can get some max off of that, everybody that was still alive for USC had to rotate back to the base there.
We take a look, of course, at that replay. And this is kind of that reactive maneuvering that you need from a team anytime there's a fight near one of these lanes. Night Ice, of course, doing a good job to rotate with that mid laner. You've got the ultimate that came down from Bahena, and it was just all in all a great level of communication. Yes, they're not able to get the kill onto the Vel'Koz, but they allowed at least enough stifling of movements from USC to allow themselves to secure a turret, their first of the game, to extend their gold lead an extra couple thousand.
If you look back, even before that Dragon play, it was about a 1K gold differential between the two teams, and then one Drake in favor of CSUDH. So that's the kind of dangerous territory, right, where it wasn't one way or another. But I'm going to put a stop on that because we do have a pick coming here. Gate actually came to rotate to make a play for the team, but got punished and forced onto the other side of the wall. The hop over from good old side of USD, but nonetheless, they are separating the members of USC as they send themselves back to lane. Aurelia chunked low, but she has that sustain.
Nothing too far yet, but you did have, of course, that final kill onto Night Ice, but they're not done yet, Tigers.
No, not quite at all. They finally get the Vel'Koz in a whole different situation. Nautilus gets rooted by the Varus. Great effective use of his CC control, and that is exactly why you bring this bot laner to the fight. Take one out. While it wasn't complete team fight situation, still really good execution follow-up.
And now you're going to have a nice little 2-for-1 in favor of CSUDH. So despite finding themselves having a couple of a rough situation early, they've been able to stabilize appropriately, secure themselves a couple dragons, and now is where things are going to start to really be scary. You've almost got that second item completed onto the Varus. Once that is finished, that's going to be a gigantic item spike. Only though he's sitting at 2, 2, and 4, he will have a huge effort and will really showcase why he's an S-tier champion.
S-tier indeed in 10.10. Perfect time for some of these to back, but now, while we've been commending the play of Asian Shenanigans, and I still think we should, the problem when you start to roam is if you're not lacking, or if you are lacking in the vision, then you can eventually get caught out. Luckily, still tanky enough at this point in time, but maybe once we get past that 20-minute mark, could be an opportunity for Blue Side to try and get some picks on the powerful link.
Well, and they've also done a really good job at out-CSing. You take a look at Ryan and Just Ricky. They're up about 20 to 30 CS on their opponent, which is immediately going to put them in a lot better situation, especially considering the fact that Orianna and Varus need those items to activate their potential. Like we said, when they hit those 2 item sparks, that's where things are really going to start to happen. But as we see it, more fights in the mid lane.
The 2 that are here from USC are down and out, though Nautilus does manage to take out Orianna before he falls, hopping onto the Fiddlesticks, who does everything he can to try and CC, but in the end, he gives his life for it. So that is a 3-for-2 trade in the favor of CSUDH, as they continue to push strong, controlling these objectives and controlling these fights.
And this is what happens when you're able to have such a team fight-oriented composition. But more importantly, outside of the raw team fight that they have, you've got enough CC on each of these characters that these skirmishes, these 3v4, 4v4 situations that they're having, actually puts them at an advantage as well, because you don't have that much hard CC for the side of USC outside of a piece of an effort quickly happens from Insanity, or a quick little knock-up from Zephyrum's Vel'Koz. Outside of that, you only have the Nautilus. So anytime you're forcing yourself into a scuffle, that's immediately putting USC on the back foot. CSUDH certainly taking advantage of that.
Taking advantage in a big way to get the Rift Herald for them to play. top turret for red side is fairly low too, so once something does happen up there, it should be able to fall. But right now, it's time for Drake. Ocean, third one of the game, very important to try and get CSU towards that soul point, but it's USC that are on the objective, and it's a great time to also just give that over. You don't need that third Drake at this point in time. It's not going to do that much for USC in isolation, so let them have it.
Yeah, and thankfully though, oh, nice little speed up there by Ryan saying, Gate, I don't think you need to be there, buddy. Get a little speed up and get your booty moving, because that would not have been fun if that hook would have landed by the Nautilus.
Thinking solely about the pro matchup here too, you look at someone like Gate, who is playing Pyke there in support, and while there was some memeing in the chat about it and things, it is a cool idea to put someone with that assassin potential. That's one of the great things about Pyke. So if you're wanting your pro player in the support position to not just offer things in terms of team communication and his utility and setting up the plays, but can also follow up in his very own real way too, while meanwhile Ricky is also up there in the top lane to try and follow up on this top turret.
Yeah, of course, making sure that they lane swap to apply pressure on this outer string of turrets as well to really activate their ability to push themselves into USC's jungle. A sliver of HP is left remaining, but it could be a chance, though. You do have multiple members from both teams. We actually saw the vision. There isn't anything just yet. Gate drops down the control.
Sneaky, sneaky, let's get geeky. There's the ultimate from Varus to start things off, but Aurelia, once again, able to keep herself alive, backs off behind her team, and that's a really quick way to just completely disengage from this fight. Don't have to take everyone.
Sometimes the biggest form of aggression is essentially just standing there and asserting your dominance. It's the true bodyguard outside of the club. You want to be able to think you can do something, but in reality, there's nothing that you have available. And CSUDH certainly showcasing that to be the case. Almost have the tower down on the bot side. And then, of course, they will move themselves around appropriately. You do still have the Rift Herald available. It hasn't been as much of a power position as it has. And actually, though, as I say that, Rift Herald is gone. It is now the Baron on the table, which could be a huge opportunity for either of these teams. Maybe a chance if UFC can sneak one through to crawl back with this gold deficit.
And CSUDH, that's going to be the top tower for him. As soon as that whole disengage happened, you think, well, Varus is able to clear that wave, and it wasn't necessarily pushing in the favor of USC. So that's two turrets in their favor, none knocked down yet for USC. So continuation of the objective focus for the blue side, in addition to just a lot of the traditional macro play. It's very common to rotate nowadays with your bot lane to get that switch into the top lane, especially with things like Rift Herald.
Yeah, anytime that you can push yourself forward and outthunk your team, is the observer is having just as much fun with insanity, of really doing a good job at showcasing not only his ability, but just the fact that, you got to have a little bit of fun. This is a tournament. Yes, this is a competition, but anytime you can have a good laugh, things are going to be great.
Yeah, I'm talking about a lot of fun in this. It's been such a pleasure seeing the way that these teams interact, and I love the fact that we're seeing flexes of these pro players into other roles as well, because it was up to the teams themselves, I'm sure, some level of collaboration on what role they would be playing. Vision time over on Baron's side.
Of course, making sure that they can shift their vision as you're used to seeing at about this point in the game. Instead of controlling on that bottom side of the map, you want to make sure that you have that neutral objective available on the top. You don't have to worry about the dragon for at least another 90 seconds or so. And as a result, that will mean a prioritization towards that top side. You don't want any sneaky attacks by USC, even though we'd like to see it and allow them to push themselves into this game. CSUDH making sure that that isn't going to be the case.
Galio did such a great job pushing that wave over in the bot lane, being that is where one of the turrets has been knocked down. Due to the nature of his kit, you don't mind him being far from the rest of the team because it doesn't take much effort for him to join back with them. And that pulled the resources from Vel'Koz for a moment. Not going to be impactful now, but later on, maybe they can use that split pushing to secure even more turrets.
Hopefully could be a chance, and we're starting to see something that you hope to expect from a team when you have this advantage. 3 turrets to 0. That outer ring is completely taken from USC, and this could allow the members of CSUDH to do something, and exactly this going into their jungle. Lucian, though,
Yep, that's last hit from Ryan, but you gotta also give it to Night Ice. Just so much burst. The gap closer that he has on the Kha'Zix really put Vayne in an unfortunate position, and once she already tumbled forward, there wasn't anything else that she could do with no more flash either.
So now, yet again, you see CSUDH taking a piece of advantage, and with the item spikes that they've been able to create, she said, of course, Ricky using that lethality build to his full advantage, has a severe F over Lu Wuxian. Not only does he have a couple extra kills and assists, but more importantly, he's got a huge piece of CS 35, which is a huge chunk, and more importantly, it's even more opportunity now that we find ourselves with yet another Drake up and available. CSUDH can contendtually pull themselves up, and there's number 3.
That puts them on sole point. CSUDH continuing to focus on the objectives. For USC, they've got a couple of Blades of the Ruin King finished for their Vayne and their Aurelia. Aurelia being a common target for that. And you see Luden's Echo. So starting to get to those second itemization on both sides here, where USC hoping maybe they can get a power spike to start knocking down some of these initial turrets, particularly the bot lane that's within its last 15%.
Yeah, and so now USC is going to have to really try to stabilize, because if they find themselves down so low, they're going to have to create a little bit of a time.
Care a bit forward here for Blue Gate. Knows his limits, though. I mean, Pyke is somebody that can escape a situation once he starts to take a lot of that damage and gain it back, but that's all thanks to the vision.
It's always great when you have a champion that has that uh-oh button, is what I like to call it. And he's able to do that now is...
Yeah. And it was that vision from UC that allows them to engage here too. Nautilus being the first to get that blow. Vel'Koz in the back throwing with all his might, putting his back into it to take out that Orianna. But Night Ice had the answer, hopping to the back line as well. An attempted slam down from Nautilus to keep the distraction. But nonetheless, it only lasted for so long as Aurelia just backs herself out of that fight.
And with a 1-for-4 trade in favor of CSUDH, that's going to be nothing but Baron on the menu. It is oversized sushi, but more importantly, the pushing power that Baron buff will provide. And even further,
what kind of sushi are you eating?
Oversized sushi. It's oversized sushi. Not that I've ever had it. I don't find myself, but it doesn't mean that it's not oversized.
If I saw a Baron looking thing in front of me and I went to kind of be like, what's happening back
It's one of those sushi boats, you know, where you get like the you know, you pay like $150 for those. Yeah, the love boats, but it's just the entirety of Baron.
Yeah, you know,
the whole thing.
I'll work up to it, maybe.
Now I want sushi really bad.
That was my only goal. Thank you for the players in game for helping me get junk hungry.
Yeah, thank you. Now I'm just starving and I want sushi, and there's a sushi place down the road for me, so I might be ordering takeout today.
I mean, we're on the Ocean Rift, like, might be out there.
It's thematic. Look at this. You're just setting me up for Tesla Tigress.
Thieves, the important things. But also important to note that it is another tower going over on the side of blue. As with the mid lane being cracked open, CSUDH are finally able to just push into this tier 2. Nothing much that USC can do to try and fight them off of this, as Insanity is having his rotation towards the top back from the base, because Galio is here to assert that pressure. Nice split coming from CSUDH to really force USC into this split of their own, which makes it difficult for any team fight potential.
Yeah, and their only real form of wave clear is that Vel'Koz. So because of that, that's just going to be even more of a rough spot, because the Baron buff already makes the minions more difficult to clear. Add to the fact that you only have limited wave clear available on the Vel'Koz, things are going to start to be very, very scary.
I was like, okay, just got the main fight covered. I'm looking down there in the bottom of the map to see and how long until she ends up finishing that off, if she's going to join the fight. CS are pushing into this top inhib turret. Gonna take a bit more before it can chunk down. Baron buff, you gotta love those Baron Canyon minions and what they're able to do with that range. Aurealia's finally come back to start defending this base with that wave pushing pretty effectively in the bot lane.
Insanity being a little bit more mental there than we would hope for. He ends up going down, but yet another fight.
Oh man, started to engage. Some flashes going in the back on the side of USC, and finally pushing forward with Baharena, who's wanting to take this. Oh no, ends up getting rooted directly under the tower. Kha'Zix is in some trouble, but the rest of the team is here to follow up. Nautilus low, has to go into the safety of that aggro, but it's the inhib that goes to blue side.
So just
Yo,
like
you
that.
got this?
Oh, it's potential. It could be an opportunity.
Aw.
Ricky gets himself another one. And this could be a chance. The Tigers, this might actually be the end. They do have some extra Baron buffs. There's three
Oh
members that
my.
are down. Two players left
my.
alone. Are they going to be able to defend?
Oh my, Baron buff is still going, but they are all knocked down low. Here's the Zonius from the Fiddle after the ultimate because he couldn't get the damage that he wanted. Night Ice is on the rampage, taking out the enemy jungler. That is the ace for CSUDH. Final tower goes down, hits onto the Nexus, and this secures their spot in the semifinals against UCI and Hakuho. After this performance, I cannot wait to see how these teams stack up. Wonderful macro play.
Going to have a huge opportunity against the Anteaters themselves, and the Trojans seem to be falling. And we did see a really good effort of macro by CSUDH and just their raw ability to hinder the economy that exists on the side for USC really showcases what they're able to do. And this is the stabilization that you want to have with these sort of team compositions. And so it's going to mean a huge piece of pressure that you're going to have from UCI because CSUDH, they're rolling and they're rolling hard.